The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness by Morgan Housel, book summary in English. Welcome back to Power Books, where we unlock the minds behind financial success. Ever wonder why some people make seemingly irrational money decisions, or why even the smartest among us can fall prey to financial mistakes? Do you sometimes feel like your emotions are secretly steering your investment ship? This time, we're diving into a book that gets to the heart of these questions. Morgan Housel's incredibly insightful The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. Get ready to explore the surprising ways our minds, not just spreadsheets, dictate our financial outcomes. We'll be unpacking Housel's brilliant lessons on everything from the power of compounding to the dangers of ego, and why understanding your own financial psychology is the most powerful tool you have. If you're ready to look beyond the numbers and truly understand why we make the money choices we do, you're in the right place. So, let's get started on this fascinating journey into the human side of finance. And if you're new to Power Books, make sure to subscribe for more explorations of the books that can empower your financial wisdom. Chapter 1, No One's Crazy. In this opening chapter, Morgan Housel lays the foundation for the book's central theme. Our relationship with money is deeply rooted in our individual histories, experiences, and perspectives, rather than purely objective financial principles. He argues that when we observe other people's financial decisions, whether extravagant spending or seemingly irrational investment choices, it's crucial to remember that their worldview has been shaped by a unique set of circumstances we can never fully understand. Someone who grew up during a depression will likely have a vastly different approach to risk and saving than someone who experienced consistent economic prosperity. Housel uses anecdotes to illustrate how seemingly crazy financial behavior often makes perfect sense when viewed through the lens of that individual's personal history and the lessons they've internalized. The chapter emphasizes the importance of empathy and understanding that there's rarely a universally right way to think about money. Instead, our individual experiences heavily influence our financial psychology. Key takeaways. Personal history shapes perspective. Our individual experiences with money during childhood, economic booms or busts, and personal financial events profoundly influence our financial beliefs and behaviors. No one is truly crazy. What might seem like irrational financial decisions to us often make sense within the context of another person's unique history and the lessons they've learned. Empathy is key to understanding. To better understand financial decisions, we need to approach them with empathy and recognize that everyone's financial worldview is shaped differently. Subjectivity of money. There isn't always a single, objectively correct way to think about money. It's a deeply personal and subjective subject. Avoid judgment. We should be cautious about judging others' financial choices without understanding the experiences that have shaped their perspectives. Understanding ourselves. Recognizing how our own history influences our financial psychology is the first step towards making more conscious and effective decisions. Chapter 2, Luck and Risk. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores the often underestimated and intertwined roles of luck and risk in financial outcomes. He argues that it's incredibly difficult to disentangle how much of success is attributable to skill and how much to simply being in the right place at the right time, luck. Similarly, failures can often be the result of unavoidable risks or unfortunate circumstances, rather than solely due to poor decisions. Housel uses compelling stories to illustrate how both extraordinary success and devastating failure can have significant elements of luck and risk embedded within them. He cautions against attributing all outcomes solely to individual brilliance or incompetence, emphasizing the humility that comes with acknowledging the influence of forces beyond our control. The chapter underscores the importance of focusing on the factors we can control, like our savings rate, our investment strategy, and our patience, rather than obsessing over trying to replicate the seemingly flawless paths of those who may have benefited from significant luck. Key takeaways. Luck and risk are inseparable. Financial outcomes are often a complex interplay of both luck, positive or negative external forces and the risks we take. Difficulty in disentangling. It's challenging to determine the precise contribution of luck versus skill in success, and risk versus poor choices in failure. Humility in success. Acknowledge the role of luck in positive outcomes to remain grounded and avoid overconfidence. Compassion in failure. Recognize that failure can often be due to unavoidable risks, fostering empathy rather than harsh judgment. Focus on what you can control. Concentrate on factors within your influence, such as savings, strategy, and patience. Avoid imitating outliers. Be wary of trying to replicate the exact paths of highly successful individuals, as their outcomes may have been heavily influenced by luck. Understanding the spectrum. Recognize that luck and risk exist on a spectrum and influence everyone's financial journey to varying degrees. Chapter 3: Never Enough. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores the dangerous human tendency of constantly wanting more, even when we have already achieved a level of significant wealth or comfort. He uses cautionary tales of individuals who, despite amassing incredible fortunes, succumb to greed and ultimately jeopardize their success and reputation by chasing ever-increasing levels of wealth. Housel argues that a lack of a clear definition of enough can lead to reckless behavior, unnecessary risk-taking, and a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. He emphasizes the importance of identifying your personal point of enough, the level of wealth that provides security and happiness without the need for constant accumulation at all costs. Understanding and accepting this point can protect us from the psychological traps of endless desire and the potential for catastrophic mistakes driven by unchecked ambition. The chapter advocates for focusing on contentment and appreciating what we have, rather than constantly striving for an elusive more. Key takeaways: the danger of limitless want. The human desire for more can be insatiable and lead to harmful financial decisions. Defining enough is crucial. Knowing when you have enough wealth to meet your needs and desires is essential for contentment and avoiding excessive risk. Greed is unsustainable. Chasing ever-increasing wealth without a clear purpose can lead to reckless behavior and eventual downfall. Contentment protects. Understanding and accepting your enough point provides a psychological anchor against the allure of endless accumulation. Focus on what matters. Prioritize happiness, security, and personal values over the relentless pursuit of more money. Comparison is the thief of joy. Constantly comparing ourselves to others with greater wealth fuels the feeling of never enough. Recognize the risks of more. Understand that pursuing more wealth often comes with increased responsibility, stress, and potential for greater losses. Chapter 4: Confounding Compounding. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores the seemingly magical power of compounding, where small, consistent growth over long periods leads to truly extraordinary results. He uses the example of Warren Buffett to illustrate how his immense wealth is not solely attributable to high returns, but rather to a combination of good returns sustained consistently over an exceptionally long investment horizon. Housel emphasizes that the key to unlocking the potential of compounding is not necessarily about achieving the highest possible returns, but about earning reasonably good returns and, crucially, reinvesting those returns for extended periods. He highlights the human tendency to underestimate the power of time and patience, often leading to premature withdrawals or chasing quick riches, thereby hindering the compounding process. The chapter underscores the importance of long-term thinking and the often underappreciated virtue of consistency in building wealth through compounding. Key takeaways: compounding is powerful. Small, consistent growth over long periods yields extraordinary results. Time is the key ingredient. The most crucial factor in compounding is the length of time returns are reinvested. Consistency over high returns. Earning reasonably good returns consistently for a long time is often more effective than chasing high but unsustainable returns. Underestimation of time. Humans tend to underestimate the impact of compounding over decades. Patience is a virtue. Resisting the urge to withdraw or chase quick gains allows compounding to work its magic. Long-term thinking is essential. a long-term perspective is necessary to fully benefit from the power of compounding. Avoid interrupting the process. Premature withdrawals or drastic changes in strategy can significantly hinder compounding. Chapter 5: Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. In this chapter, Morgan Housel draws a crucial distinction between the skills and mindset required to get wealthy and those needed to stay wealthy. He argues that accumulating wealth often involves risk-taking, optimism, and perhaps a degree of boldness. However, preserving wealth necessitates a completely different set of traits, primarily centered around humility, frugality, and an acute awareness of risk. Housel uses examples of individuals who achieved great financial success but subsequently lost it due to reckless behavior or a failure to recognize the importance of protecting their gains. He emphasizes that staying wealthy is less about maximizing returns and more about avoiding catastrophic losses. This requires a defensive mindset, acknowledging that future success isn't guaranteed and prioritizing survival over aggressive growth. The chapter underscores that long-term wealth is built not just through earning, but through a consistent focus on preserving what you have earned. Key takeaways: different skills for different stages. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy require distinct skill sets and mindsets. Accumulation involves risk. Building wealth often involves taking calculated risks and displaying optimism. Preservation requires humility and frugality. Maintaining wealth demands humility, cost control, and risk awareness. Avoid catastrophic losses. Staying wealthy is more about preventing significant losses than maximizing gains. Defensive mindset is key. A long-term perspective requires a focus on protecting what you have. Future success is not guaranteed. Acknowledge the role of luck and the possibility of future setbacks. Survival over aggressive growth. Prioritize the longevity of your wealth over the pursuit of the highest possible returns. Chapter 6: Tails You Win. In this chapter, Morgan Housel challenges the notion that every investment needs to be a winner to achieve significant long-term success. He argues that in fields like investing and venture capital, outsized returns often come from a small number of exceptional winners, the tails of the distribution curve. These big successes can more than compensate for the numerous investments that don't perform well or even fail entirely. Housel emphasizes that embracing this reality requires a different kind of thinking, one that accepts losses as a natural part of the process and focuses on allowing the potential winners to run their course. He cautions against getting overly fixated on avoiding all losses, as this can lead to prematurely selling winners and limiting overall returns. The key, according to Housel, is to survive the inevitable setbacks and position yourself to capture the substantial gains from the occasional home run investments. Key takeaways: big wins drive returns. Significant long-term gains often come from a small percentage of exceptional investments. Accept losses as part of the game. Losses are an unavoidable part of investing, and trying to avoid them entirely can be counterproductive. Focus on letting winners run. The key is to hold on to your successful investments long enough for them to generate substantial returns. Don't sweat the small losses. Minor losses are often the price you pay for the opportunity to participate in potential big winners. Patience is crucial for tails. Allowing the tails to develop and mature requires significant patience and a long-term perspective. A different kind of thinking. This approach requires accepting that not every investment needs to be a success. Survival is key. Enduring the inevitable losses allows you to be positioned for the outsized gains. Chapter 7: Freedom. In this chapter, Morgan Housel argues that the ultimate dividend of wealth is not simply the accumulation of material possessions, but the profound sense of control it provides over one's time and options. He posits that the ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, and for as long as you want, is the true essence of being rich. This form of freedom offers a level of happiness and satisfaction that material wealth alone cannot guarantee. Housel contrasts this intrinsic value of freedom with the often superficial allure of high salaries or expensive possessions, suggesting that these can sometimes come at the cost of genuine autonomy. The chapter emphasizes that financial goals should ultimately be aligned with achieving this sense of control over our lives, as it is a fundamental human desire and a powerful driver of contentment. Key takeaways. Time control is the ultimate dividend. The greatest benefit of wealth is the freedom it buys in terms of time and choices. Freedom trumps materialism. The ability to control your time and options offers deeper satisfaction than just owning things. High salary versus autonomy. A high income doesn't necessarily equate to freedom if it comes with a loss of control over your schedule or life. Align goals with freedom. Financial aspirations should ultimately aim to provide greater autonomy and control. Intrinsic value of freedom. The desire for control over our lives is a fundamental human need. Contentment through control. Having control over your time and choices is a significant driver of happiness. Rethink what rich means. Shift the definition of wealth from mere material accumulation to the freedom it provides. Chapter 8, Man in the Car Paradox. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores the psychological paradox of why people often desire wealth to signal status and impress others. Yet the very act of displaying extreme wealth can often have the opposite effect, making them less liked and respected. He uses the analogy of admiring someone's expensive car, but rarely admiring the person driving it. Housel argues that people primarily focus on their own desires and aspirations, and while they might momentarily notice outward displays of wealth, it rarely translates into genuine admiration or connection. In fact, ostentatious displays can often breed envy and resentment. The chapter suggests that true wealth lies in the options and freedom it provides, rather than in the fleeting validation of others. Focusing on internal satisfaction and the intrinsic benefits of wealth, such as control over one's time, is presented as a more fulfilling and less psychologically risky approach than trying to impress others with material possessions. Key takeaways. Wealth as a signal. People often desire wealth to signal status and impress others. The paradox. The act of displaying extreme wealth often doesn't lead to admiration, but rather envy. Focus on self. People are primarily focused on their own desires and aspirations. Superficial validation. Outward displays of wealth rarely lead to genuine admiration or connection. Intrinsic value of wealth. True wealth lies in the freedom and options it provides. Internal satisfaction. Focusing on personal contentment is more fulfilling than seeking external validation through wealth. Avoid ostentation. Displaying extreme wealth can be psychologically risky and counterproductive to building genuine relationships. Chapter 9, Wealth is What You Don't See. In this chapter, Morgan Housel challenges our conventional understanding of wealth, arguing that it's not about the visible signs of affluence, the expensive cars, the large houses, the fancy vacations, but rather the financial assets that are not spent. True wealth, according to Housel, is the money that is saved, invested, and available for future opportunities or unexpected events. He emphasizes that spending money is a visible act that signals consumption, while saving and investing are often invisible but represent potential and security. The chapter highlights the danger of judging someone's wealth based solely on their visible spending, as many people who appear wealthy may actually be deeply in debt or have little saved. Conversely, those who live modestly might possess significant underlying wealth. Housel underscores that building true wealth requires prioritizing the accumulation of unspent assets and cultivating a mindset focused on long-term financial security rather than short-term displays of affluence. Key takeaways. Visible spending versus invisible assets. We often equate wealth with what we see, consumption, but true wealth is what we don't see, savings and investments. Spending signals consumption, saving signals potential. Outward displays of wealth show money being used, while saving represents future options and security. Danger of judging by appearances. Visible spending is an unreliable indicator of actual wealth. Modesty can mask wealth. Those who live below their means may possess significant underlying assets. Prioritize accumulating unspent assets. Building true wealth requires focusing on saving and investing. Long-term security over short-term displays. A mindset focused on financial security is more conducive to building lasting wealth. Wealth provides options. Unspent assets offer flexibility and the ability to seize future opportunities. Chapter 10, Save Money. In this straightforward yet crucial chapter, Morgan Housel emphasizes the fundamental importance of saving money as the foundation of building wealth. He argues that the ability to save is more within our control than market returns or income growth. While earning more can help, it's often outpaced by increased spending. Housel highlights that building wealth isn't just about how much you earn, but how much you keep. He debunks the myth that only high earners can save significant amounts, suggesting that a high savings rate is achievable at various income levels by prioritizing frugality and aligning spending with your values. The chapter underscores that saving provides a margin of safety, optionality, and the fuel for your investments to grow over time. Without a consistent habit of saving, the power of compounding and the opportunities the market presents will remain largely out of reach. Key takeaways. Saving is fundamental. It's the bedrock of wealth building. More control than returns or income. Our savings rate is often more within our control than investment performance or salary increases. It's about keeping, not just earning. How much you save is often more important than how much you make. Savings rate over income level. A high savings rate is achievable at various income levels through conscious spending. Provides margin of safety and opportunity. Savings offer a buffer against unexpected events and capital for investments. Fuel for compounding. Savings provide the principle that allows compounding to work its magic. Prioritize frugality. Aligning spending with your values is key to maximizing your savings rate. Chapter 11. Reasonable rational. In this chapter, Morgan Housel challenges the idea that all financial decisions should be purely rational, based solely on mathematical optimization and logical analysis. He argues that in the real world, people are driven by emotions, personal histories, and individual goals, making reasonable decisions often more practical and sustainable than perfectly rational ones. A reasonable approach acknowledges these human factors and allows for some flexibility and emotional comfort, even if it's not the absolute most mathematically optimal choice. Housel suggests that striving for perfect rationality can be stressful, difficult to maintain, and ultimately lead to burnout or abandonment of the financial plan. Instead, adopting a reasonable mindset, one that works well in your individual circumstances and allows you to sleep at night, is more likely to lead to long-term adherence and better overall outcomes. Key takeaways. Rationality versus reasonableness. Perfectly rational financial decisions aren't always practical or sustainable in real life. Human factors matter. Emotions, history, and individual goals influence our financial choices. Reasonable allows for comfort. A reasonable approach acknowledges emotions and allows for some flexibility. Sustainability over optimization. Financial plans that feel reasonable are more likely to be followed long-term. Stress reduction. Striving for perfect rationality can be stressful and counterproductive. Individual circumstances. What's reasonable will vary from person to person based on their unique situation. Sleep at night factor. Choosing a reasonable approach that provides peace of mind is often the best strategy. Chapter 12. Surprise. In this chapter, Morgan Housel emphasizes the inherent unpredictability of the world and its profound impact on financial outcomes. He argues that history is often driven by surprising one-off events, technological breakthroughs, global crises, unexpected political shifts that are impossible to foresee but have massive consequences. Our tendency to extrapolate linearly from the present or the recent past often leaves us blindsided by these black swan events. Housel cautions against building financial plans based solely on past trends or assuming a predictable future. Instead, he advocates for building resilience and flexibility into our financial lives. Having savings, avoiding extreme leverage, and maintaining a degree of adaptability to weather the inevitable surprises that the future will bring. Recognizing that the most significant events are often the ones we don't see coming is crucial for long-term financial survival and success. Key takeaways. Unpredictability is inherent. The world is full of surprises and unexpected events. History is driven by surprises. Major events often defy prediction but have huge consequences. Danger of linear extrapolation. Assuming the future will be a straight line from the past is often wrong. Build resilience and flexibility. Financial plans should be able to withstand unforeseen events. Importance of margin of safety. Savings and avoiding excessive debt provide a buffer against surprises. Adaptability is key. Being willing to adjust your plans in response to new information is crucial. The biggest events are often unforeseen. Plan for the unexpected rather than assuming a predictable future. Chapter 13, Room for Error. In this chapter, Morgan Housel stresses the importance of incorporating a margin of safety, or room for error, into our financial plans. He argues that life is inherently unpredictable, and things rarely go exactly as planned. Unexpected expenses, job losses, market downturns, and other unforeseen events are inevitable. Building in buffers, such as having an emergency fund, avoiding excessive debt, and making conservative financial projections, provides the resilience needed to weather these storms without derailing our long-term goals. Housel emphasizes that the cost of being wrong financially can be severe, and having a room for error allows us to absorb setbacks and continue moving forward. He contrasts this with the fragility of tightly optimized plans that leave no room for mistakes or bad luck. Acknowledging the uncertainty of the future and proactively building in safety nets is presented as a cornerstone of long-term financial success and peace of mind. Key takeaways. Life is unpredictable. Things rarely go exactly according to plan. Build a margin of safety. Incorporate buffers like emergency funds and low debt. Conservative projections. Avoid overly optimistic financial forecasts. Cost of being wrong is high. Financial mistakes can have significant consequences. Room for error provides resilience. Buffers allow you to withstand setbacks. Avoid tightly optimized plans. Plans with no flexibility are fragile. Peace of mind. Having a room for error reduces financial stress and anxiety. You'll change. In this chapter, Morgan Housel highlights the often overlooked reality that our goals, desires, and priorities in life are likely to evolve significantly over time. What seems important to us in our 20s might hold less value in our 40s or 60s. This has profound implications for long-term financial planning. Housel argues that we should avoid making irreversible financial decisions based solely on our current aspirations, as our future selves may have different needs and preferences. He emphasizes the importance of flexibility in our financial plans, allowing for adjustments as our lives and values change. This might mean prioritizing liquid assets over illiquid ones, avoiding locking ourselves into rigid long-term commitments, and maintaining a degree of open-mindedness about our future financial goals. Recognizing that you'll change is a fundamental aspect of human life, and planning accordingly is crucial for long-term financial well-being and avoiding future regret. Key takeaways. Goals evolve. Our desires and priorities in life change over time. Impact on financial planning. Long-term financial decisions should consider this evolution. Avoid irreversible decisions. Be cautious about locking into rigid plans based on current aspirations. Importance of flexibility. Financial plans should allow for adjustments as life changes. Prioritize liquidity. Having accessible assets provides greater flexibility. Maintain open-mindedness. Be prepared to adapt your financial goals in the future. Plan for your future self. Consider the potential needs and desires of your future self. Chapter 15. Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. In this chapter, Morgan Housel cautions against the human tendency to extrapolate current trends, whether positive or negative, indefinitely into the future. He argues that periods of extreme success are often unsustainable and sow the seeds for future challenges, while periods of hardship often contain the potential for eventual recovery and future growth. Our emotional responses to these extremes can be equally exaggerated, leading to overconfidence during booms and excessive pessimism during busts. Housel emphasizes the importance of maintaining a more balanced and long-term perspective, recognizing that cycles are a natural part of life and the market. He suggests that avoiding extreme emotional reactions and understanding that both good and bad times are often temporary can lead to more rational decision-making and greater resilience over the long run. Key takeaways. Extremes are unsustainable. Periods of extreme success or failure rarely last forever. Cycles are natural. Markets in life tend to move in cycles of ups and downs. Avoid linear extrapolation. Don't assume current trends will continue indefinitely. Emotional overreactions. Our emotional responses to booms and busts can be exaggerated. Maintain a balanced perspective. Adopt a long-term view that acknowledges cycles. Avoid extreme emotions. Resist the urge to become overly optimistic or pessimistic based on current conditions. Resilience through perspective. Understanding the temporary nature of extremes fosters greater long-term resilience. Chapter 16, Ego is the Enemy. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores the detrimental role that ego can play in our financial lives. He argues that a large ego can blind us to risks, make us resistant to learning from mistakes, and lead to overconfidence and reckless behavior. When we attribute all successes solely to our own brilliance and dismiss failures as bad luck or external factors, we hinder our ability to grow and adapt. Housel emphasizes the importance of humility in recognizing the role of luck and external forces in our outcomes, both positive and negative. A humble approach allows us to stay grounded, learn from our errors, and adapt our strategies as needed. The chapter suggests that focusing on continuous learning and self-improvement, rather than seeking constant validation of our intelligence or abilities through financial success, is a more sustainable path to long-term financial well-being. Key takeaways. Ego blinds us. A large ego can obscure risks and make us resistant to learning. Overconfidence and recklessness. Ego often leads to taking on unnecessary risks. Attribute success to skill, ignore luck. Ego makes us overestimate our own abilities and underestimate external factors. Resistant to learning. Ego prevents us from acknowledging and learning from mistakes. Importance of humility. Recognizing the role of luck fosters a more balanced perspective. Learn from errors. A humble approach allows for growth and adaptation. Focus on continuous improvement. Prioritize learning over constant validation. Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism. In this chapter, Morgan Housel explores why pessimism often sounds more intelligent and attracts more attention than optimism, particularly in the realm of finance. He suggests that negativity has a certain gravitas and can tap into our innate fear of loss, making pessimistic narratives seem more credible and urgent. Additionally, the history of financial markets is punctuated by crises and downturns, providing ample real-world examples to support pessimistic viewpoints. Housel cautions against being overly swayed by pessimism, arguing that while risks are real and need to be acknowledged, unchecked pessimism can lead to missed opportunities and a failure to recognize the long-term upward trajectory of progress and innovation. He emphasizes the importance of maintaining a balanced perspective, acknowledging potential downsides, while also recognizing the power of long-term growth and resilience. Pessimism sounds smart. Negative narratives often carry a sense of seriousness and credibility. Taps into fear of loss. Pessimism resonates with our innate aversion to losing money. History provides negative examples. Market crashes and crises lend support to pessimistic views. Optimism can seem naive. Positive outlooks are sometimes perceived as unrealistic or simplistic. Danger of being overly swayed. Excessive pessimism can lead to missed opportunities. Long-term upward trajectory. Progress and innovation tend to drive long-term growth. Maintain a balanced perspective. Acknowledge risks, but also recognize the potential for positive outcomes. Chapter 18, When You'll Believe Anything. In this chapter, Morgan Housel examines how periods of uncertainty, fear, and rapid change can make us more susceptible to believing even outlandish or unsubstantiated financial narratives. When we feel overwhelmed or lack control, we often seek simple explanations and cling to stories that offer a sense of order or predictability, even if those stories are flawed. Housel uses historical examples of market bubbles and manias to illustrate how compelling but ultimately false narratives can take hold and drive irrational behavior. He emphasizes the importance of maintaining a healthy skepticism, especially during times of heightened uncertainty, and of grounding our financial decisions in well-reasoned principles rather than succumbing to the allure of easy answers or emotionally charged stories. The chapter serves as a reminder to critically evaluate the information we consume and to be wary of narratives that seem too good to be true or that prey on our fears and anxieties. Key takeaways. Uncertainty breeds credulity. Times of fear and change make us more likely to believe anything. Seeking simple explanations, we crave order and predictability, even in flawed narratives. Historical market manias. Bubbles are often fueled by compelling but false stories. Importance of skepticism. Maintain a healthy doubt, especially during uncertain times. Ground decisions in principles. Base financial choices on reason, not just appealing stories. Beware of easy answers. Be wary of narratives that seem too good to be true. Critically evaluate information. Question the sources and logic behind financial narratives. Chapter 19, All Together Now. In this chapter, Morgan Housel synthesizes the key psychological concepts discussed throughout the book, emphasizing that understanding these biases and tendencies is crucial for navigating the world of money effectively. He reiterates that financial success is less about having a brilliant formula and more about consistently managing our own behavior. Housel reminds us that our personal history shapes our views. Luck and risk are ever present. The desire for more can be dangerous. Compounding takes time, and staying wealthy requires a different mindset than getting wealthy. He underscores the importance of defining our own goals, being reasonable rather than purely rational, planning for surprises, allowing for error, and recognizing that our future selves will likely change. Ultimately, the chapter serves as a cohesive summary, reinforcing the idea that a strong understanding of our own psychology is the most powerful tool in making sound and sustainable financial decisions that lead to both wealth and well-being. Key takeaways. Synthesis of concepts. This chapter brings together the key psychological principles discussed. Behavior over formula. Managing our own behavior is more critical than finding a perfect strategy. Reiteration of core themes, personal history, luck, risk, enough, compounding, staying wealthy, etc. are revisited. Define personal goals. Financial decisions should align with individual aspirations. Reasonable over rational. Practical and sustainable approaches are often best. Plan for uncertainty, build in buffers, and expect surprises. Acknowledge change. Recognize that our goals and priorities will evolve. Psychology is key. Understanding our own mind is the most powerful financial tool. Chapter 20, Confessions. In this final chapter, Morgan Housel shares some of his own personal financial beliefs and strategies, emphasizing that these are shaped by his own experiences and what works for him, rather than being presented as universal truths. He discusses his approach to saving, investing, and risk, highlighting the importance of a high savings rate, a long-term and patient investment horizon, and a degree of humility regarding market predictions. Housel underscores the idea that there's no single right way to manage money, and that finding a strategy that aligns with your own goals, temperament, and circumstances is paramount. By sharing his own framework, he provides a real-world example of how the psychological principles discussed throughout the book can be put into practice, while also reinforcing the subjective and personal nature of financial decision-making. Key takeaways. Personal beliefs and strategies. Housel shares his own financial approach. Shaped by personal experience, his strategies are based on what works for him. High savings rate emphasizes the importance of saving a significant portion of income. Long-term perspective advocates for patient investing over extended periods. Humility regarding predictions acknowledges the difficulty of forecasting market movements. No single right way reinforces the idea that financial strategies are personal. Align with goals and temperament. Finding an approach that suits your individual needs is key. Real-world example provides a practical illustration of the book's principles. This concludes our summary of Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. It's a book that offers valuable insights into the often irrational ways we think about money and provides a framework for making more thoughtful and effective financial decisions by understanding our own psychology. And that brings us to the end of our exploration into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. I hope you've gained some valuable insights into the often hidden forces that drive our financial decisions. Understanding these psychological principles can truly be a game changer in building long-term wealth and finding financial peace. What resonated most with you from Housel's timeless lessons? Let us know your thoughts and takeaways in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the human side of finance helpful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from understanding the psychology of money. And if you're eager to delve even deeper into these crucial concepts and truly master your financial mindset, I highly recommend picking up the full version of The Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel's writing is both insightful and engaging, and the book offers a wealth of knowledge that can have a lasting impact on your financial well-being. You'll find a link to purchase it in the description below. Thanks for joining us on Power Books. Subscribe for more insightful reads that empower your financial journey. Until next time, keep learning and keep investing wisely.